Hey guys, today we'll be taking another look at the Georgia runoff races. We have some new polls out for the two runoffs as well, as early voting is right about to end. It will end on the 1st of January, and then after that, the next time you can vote in the state of Georgia is on January 5th itself. So this, of course, is the current Senate, and of course, these two seats will decide the makeup of the U.S. Senate after January 2021. And of course, if Democrats win both, they will win control of the Senate. Republicans only need to win one seat if they want to maintain their majority in the United States Senate. So before we get started, make sure you join my Discord server if you have not, the link to which is at the very top of the description below. So taking a look at the Senate results between David Perdue and Jon Ossoff, what you see is that the race was pretty close. This was a state that Joe Biden was able to flip on the presidential level, so that's why I've been saying this race is all about turnout. I mean, David Perdue won by less than 100,000 votes. That is a pretty significant amount. I believe it was 88,000 votes. It might be a significant amount, but in terms of the amount of votes that were cast, 88,000 is just less than 2%, and Jon Ossoff can definitely make that back, especially with those new voters, younger voters that turned 18 after election night, but were able to register to vote before the deadline in early December, and those voters are going to skew very heavily in favor of Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. Between Warnock and Loeffler, you see that it was a three-way race. Warnock won 32.9%, Loeffler 25.9%, and then Doug Collins 20%, with the top two, Warnock and Loeffler, advancing to the runoffs. So the latest polls for the two races between Warnock and Loeffler and Perdue and Ossoff is that Jon Ossoff has retaken the lead for the first time since the 22nd of December. So he now sits at 48.5% to David Perdue's 47.5%, while Raphael Warnock leads by 1.9%. He is always doing just a little bit better than Jon Ossoff against his opponent Clay Loeffler. Warnock sits at 49.2% to Clay Loeffler's 47.3%. He is nearing 50%, which is where he wants to be at. Now, although Ossoff leads by 1% and Warnock leads by 1.9%, the polls, they really still don't tell us too much about the race. I mean, there's barely been any polls. Just many pollsters, they don't want to be wrong again, just like they were in the 2020 election. I mean, polls were way off, but the latest polls do show some good signs for the Democratic Party. You had Survey USA, which was the most accurate pollster in the 2020 election. They got many Senate races much better than other pollsters, and they have Ossoff +5 and Warnock +7. You did have some polls that favored the Republicans by very slight margins, so definitely not the best there for the two Democratic candidates. However, the two latest polls, I mean, this poll was quite old, from the 14th to the 22nd. This was 21st to the 22nd. The only somewhat new poll is this open model project poll, but it doesn't even have a rating because it hasn't released enough polls. But it was, basically it was a week, and it was from the 21st to the 27th of December. However, the two latest polls, first we have Trafalgar Group. This poll, of course, is very heavily biased towards the right. They had Trump winning the election, so they were wrong in basically all of the Rust Belt. They were off in many other states like Georgia, North Carolina. Not North Carolina, Trump did win North Carolina, but they were off in Arizona as well, I believe. So they always give the Republicans a pretty large edge, and it's surprising to see that Jon Ossoff leads by 3% and Warnock by 1%. If you take a look at the previous Trafalgar Group polls, you had Perdue +3 and Loeffler +7. Before that, you had a tie and then Loeffler +3. And then, that was the last Trafalgar Group poll. So they released 3 polls, and this is the best one so far from Trafalgar for the Democratic Party. And then, of course, because of how biased they are, 538 has made huge adjustments to these numbers, which is Ossoff +5 and Warnock +5. And this from JMC Analytics. This is a BC rated pollster, so better than Trafalgar Group, but not exactly a great pollster. They have Ossoff +8 and Warnock +9 adjusted to Ossoff +6 and Warnock +7. So they have reached 50% in these two polls, which is exactly where they want to be at. They do want to be at 50%, so they do have that majority, because right now the polling average, if these were the results, Kelly Loeffler could still win. If Warnock and Loeffler still won, if they won these exact amounts, Loeffler could win over those undecided voters, which do typically skew towards the right. In the end, those undecided voters, a lot of them, they do end up voting for the Republicans, and that's what Donald Trump did in 2016. Hillary Clinton did not do worse than what her polling average said she would. She just didn't win any significant chunk of those undecided voters in the polls, while Donald Trump won almost all of them because Hillary Clinton was just such a polarizing candidate that the American people just did not trust, even more so than Donald Trump, which is why she ended up losing the election. And she didn't do any worse than the polls. So, they do want to be at 50%, and they are going to be at 50% on election night, whoever wins these races, because it is a two-way race. Somebody has to win that majority. It will be slim, and I'll be making my final prediction for these races in a couple of days. So these are the latest polls for the Georgia Senate runoffs. I do also want to take a look at the betting odds. This really doesn't say anything about who's going to win. Betting odds, they're not always right. They had Susan Collins losing her re-election, so they're not, the best, but it's just seeing what people think about the race. Currently, the regular election is 64 cents for Republican shares, so basically that's a 64% chance. Democrats 40, it is a little bit over 100, but that's just how betting works. You can go over 100 cents. So basically how betting works, if you think Ossoff's going to win, you'll pay that 40 cents, and then you'll get $1 back if he wins for every 40 cents. So you make 60 cents every time you bet on Ossoff if you were to win. And then to Purdue, same thing. If you bet on Ossoff and he loses, then you basically lose all the money that you put in. So you see over this 90-day trend, you basically have the entire election cycle. Purdue's chances were the highest right after the election, because he did, of course, win on November 3rd. He did win more votes, but he did not win in the 50% he needed to win the race outright. And of course, this is, it is a racist system in the state of Georgia, as I've said before, this runoff system, because if you have one black candidate running against multiple white candidates, the black candidate is probably going to win more votes. Just from the black population. That just tends to happen. And then I believe in the 50s or 60s, they adopted this system so that, if you had one white candidate running against one black candidate in Georgia, this is why it's so prevalent in the South. It occurs in Louisiana as well, I believe, for the 2020 cycle. But, if you have one black versus one white candidate, then the white candidate would win more votes than the black candidate. So that's why there's this runoff system. And, I think that if you win 30% of the vote, you probably shouldn't win the race, but that's just why the system was adopted here in the state of Georgia. You see that in recent days, Jon Ossoff's chances have improved by 4% just today. This is just today, and he was at 36 yesterday. Now he's at 40 cents per share. That may increase, that may decrease. We'll see, but the trends are basically Jon Ossoff has been improving in terms of his chances over the last couple of days. On the 21st, he had a 30% chance of winning. Now he's all the way up at 40% just a couple days later. And then for the special election, it is even better for Raphael Warnock. As you can see right now, Raphael Warnock has a 48-cent share to Kelly Loeffler's 55 cents. This is the closest they have really ever been in a very long time at 45. Well, now he's at 48, so this is basically his all-time peak after November 3rd. And this race was expected to go to Warnock. He was going to win the vote share because of the split Republican Party there in the state of Georgia with Loeffler and Collins, but Warnock was expected to win this race, yet he was at 50% very narrowly for a couple of days. After that, it dropped after the election because it looked as if Ossoff was probably going to lose, but now I think this really is a toss-up race, especially this special election, because 48 cents, it increased by 3 just today. He is nearing 50%, and 48.55, that is a very good chance for Raphael Warnock. And 40.64, that's still a 4 in 10 chance. It's just a little bit less than half. So, although Warnock is doing better than Ossoff, definitely Ossoff's chances aren't, he still has a very high chance. This is a much higher chance than Trump had of winning in 2016 or 2020. So just keep that in mind. In 2016, he had a much smaller chance of winning the election. So betting odds, they really don't matter too much in terms of what the results are going to be. But this is, just who, the public in general think is going to win. I also do want to take a look at the early voting statistics. I think that This is pretty interesting to take a look at. So basically, so far, let me zoom in. Some of you guys wanted me to zoom in a little bit more a couple of videos ago. So basically, so far, 2,566 people have already voted in the Georgia Senate runoffs. This is the early vote only. So on January 5th, we're going to see a pretty large increase. I expect 500 to 700,000 votes, probably around there. It's not going to go up to 4 million or anything like that. The turnout is currently at 33.2% of all of the registered voters. Compared to 2020, that number is a lot higher. So this is very, very high turnout for a runoff race. And then taking a look at the counties, really the major counties for the Democrats are basically just those counties in the urban areas around the city of Atlanta. So you have Fulton and DeKalb. Clayton County is also pretty large as well, but Fulton and DeKalb, those are the two main ones, especially DeKalb, because DeKalb is a lot more liberal than Fulton County, although Fulton County is also very, very liberal. If you take a look at the results here on the regular Senate election, you see Fulton County 69-28, DeKalb County 81-16. So if you were to take a look at the turnout, so the average turnout, keep in mind, is 33.2%. That is the statewide numbers. But if you were to take a look at Fulton County, that's at 38.2%. And then DeKalb County right there, 39.5%. So very, very high turnout from the Atlanta area, which is definitely going to benefit the Democratic Party. However, of course, Republicans are still going to vote in person a little bit more. It's definitely not going to be as divided as we saw on election night between Biden and Trump, because Trump was really the only one that had a problem with the early voting, the mail-in ballots. So really, it was just him that had a problem with that. I think that in this race, it's not going to be a split. And if that were to occur, then Democrats are definitely doing a lot better right now than the Republican Party, even in these Republican counties. Taking a look at the race and ethnicity, you see an increase in black voters and a decrease in white voters. You see that the black and white turnout is almost the same, which is very good for the Democratic Party, because white turnout is always typically higher than black turnout, but at this point, 3% difference is pretty small. The white turnout has overtaken the black turnout in the last couple of days, although. But taking a look at the race and ethnicity for the regular race, this is between Ossoff and Perdue, during the general election, and the white voters is made up 62%, black 28%. Now it is white 55% and black 31%. So that increase in black voters can definitely go a long way in helping Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock in this race. The distribution of older voters is going down, so that is a good sign. But I think that this number right there, that 91,000, that is going to be very, very beneficial for the Democratic Party, because these are people who did not vote in the 2020 general election. And what this means is that some of them, they may just be voters who didn't really care, but now they did care and they do want to register to vote. But there are a lot of them who just turned 18, just registered to vote, and they vote overwhelmingly in favor of the Democratic Party. If you take a look at the younger vote, if you were to go by age right there, 51%, 47, and then 18-29, 54 to 43. So these are the younger voters, and they will vote for the Democratic Party. And most of them, they are coming from the Atlanta area, which is even more skewed towards the left. So that is why this 91,000 can, really just go a long way in these two races. But really, this is just a race about turnout. So that's why I look at turnout. I don't really look at, how many votes each party really has or anything like that. I just take a look at the turnout. And if we're to take a look at turnout by congressional district, so this is the Georgia district map. As you can see, it's all gerrymandered, very nice. You have all the packing here in Atlanta, having all of these counties that Republicans could never win in the Atlanta area all packed together. So you have all of those those Democratic counties there. And then you try to, break up some Democratic regions. You have Cobb County there, the 11th district, that's going to go red. This house map right there, as you can see, the 11th district, of course, going red, when Cobb County, which is around right there, is a blue district, or not district, a blue county. And then Basically everything, everything else is red except for the 2nd district, I believe. Yeah, right there you have Macon and Columbus. So basically this is all being very gerrymandered, and this is the county map, and we do have, not county, the district map, sorry about that, but we do have the numbers for these districts. If you were to take a look at, this is the turnout for every single congressional district, and you see that the most Democratic districts, they are the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th district, as well as the 2nd district, also pretty Democratic. You see the 2nd district, 65%, that's all right, but 4, 5, 6, 7, you have 70.2, 71.9, 66.8, 63.2. That is some pretty high turnout. You also see high turnout in the 13th district, that is 69.1%. The 13th district right there, that is also near the Atlanta area right there, just right around it. You have parts of McClain County right there, and the 13th district is also a blue district, so that's another blue district with high turnout. The 14th district, that's the lowest, I believe, so you're at 56.8%. The 14th district right there, that is a very, very red district up there in the northwest, 74.25, of course. So basically there is higher turnout in the Democratic areas, and right now, if we were to just take a look, if nobody else could vote anymore, Democrats would win this race, no doubt about that. They have more early votes than the Republican Party, but really it is all about whether or not the GOP can turn out voters, and of course, early voting ends on the 1st of January, so I will, do that thing where I did a couple of days ago, where I used the results from the general election and, used it to look at the turnout from each county and basically just use the votes that were cast and multiply them by the percentage won by each candidate. Now that, it's not going to be accurate because it's going to be favorable towards the Republican Party, more favorable than it typically would be, just because more Democrats vote in early voting, and you still had Jon Ossoff leading there, as we saw a couple days ago. Make sure you check that out if you haven't. It was a video from 2 days ago, but really it just tests the turnout, and that's why I did that, to see the turnout for each of these counties, and there was enough turnout from the Democratic counties to bring Jon Ossoff over the top. So that's what that was all about. But it's just the next couple of days, Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, whether or not they can get those voters out. In David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, I believe they're stuck in DC right now with voting, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so that will probably be it for this video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Join my Discord server if you have not. Comment down below who you guys think is going to win this, the two races, whether you think that Warnock is going to win one, Ossoff is going to lose, or both Democrats are going to win, or if both Republicans are going to win. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you have not for daily political content, and I will see you guys in the next video.